I live in a quiet neighborhood with my wife. Our community has a group page on Facebook that many residents are in. The page is used to post any news in the community, and anybody can post there. Sometimes people will post things like animals seen in their backyards, or that they're having a yard sale. Other times things like community events are posted there, or possibly pictures of the weather. But every now and then, if suspicious activity or crimes happen, that's where people post about it. However, that's been pretty rare, because our area has always been considered to be pretty safe. In the years that I've been a part of the Facebook group, the craziest crimes I remember was when a police chase cut through the town once, or another time somebody's garage got broken into. Well, one morning I went onto the Facebook page and saw a post that was concerning. It was talking about some possible carjacking attempts and suspicious characters seen near the golf course. When I read the post, it talked of a man who lurked on the side of a certain street next to the woods. The man apparently walked out in front of somebody's car once and tried pulling open the door and then tried breaking the window. The driver was able to get away and called the police. However, when they got there, they did not find the man. Another time, less than a week later, a man was seen in that same general spot, just looking at people standing by the side of the road, and then he went into the woods. He was described as having longer brown hair and a short beard. This was especially concerning to me because our backyard is very large and goes all the way to that very same spot, so technically the guy would have been standing on my property. So the woods that he had come out of was our woods. You see, we have 5 acres, and most of the woods is going directly back behind our house. There's so much of it that we never really go far into them. I rarely go to that part of my property, and the end of the woods is the street that the people were talking about, and right across from that street is a golf course. When I heard about this, I decided to go out into the woods and look around. I hadn't been back there in a while. We have a small path through the first part of the woods, but I would say at least 90% of it is all wildland that I rarely walk through. I went out into the woods and it soon became pretty dense. After wandering around there for like 30 minutes, I hadn't seen or heard anything strange, so I went back inside after that. We were not sure why a man would be hanging out in that area, and we didn't know who it could possibly be either. Well, that very same night, my wife and I were at home. I was in the living room watching TV with my wife, and she got up to get something in the kitchen. It was probably like 10 p.m. or so. Most of our lights were off, and when my wife got into the kitchen, I remember her announcing that something triggered the light in the backyard. We have a motion detecting light in the backyard for the smaller area that's not the woods, which is a grass area and our patio. Both of us assumed it to be an animal, most likely a deer. So I got up and headed into the kitchen to see what it could be. However, we did not see anything for several moments. That is, until we saw a man walking out of the woods and into our yard. I knew right then and there that this had to be the same guy that people had been talking about. We watched from our window as the guy walked around our yard. I thought about opening a window and yelling at him, but I didn't. We moved back as the man walked closer to our house. We didn't really think he could see us because our lights back there were off, but I wasn't sure. That's when I got out my phone and dialed 911. The guy then walked over to our back door and tried opening it. Thankfully, it was locked. He then walked back out into the yard and eventually over to our shed in the corner of the backyard. Then he went inside of it. I told police that the man was hiding inside of our shed. They did not take long to respond and got there just minutes later. They went to the shed and tried to get the man to come out for a while. There were several things in there that he could use as a weapon. After probably almost 20 minutes, eventually they got the guy to come out of the shed. I learned that just a little bit before we had seen him in our backyard, he had tried to carjack somebody else on that same road before taking off into the woods. The police were already called about that incident. That must have been why they got there so fast, and that also must have been why he was trying to get inside of our house and then hid inside of the shed. I'm glad that my wife noticed the light coming on and that we saw him. If not, he maybe could have gotten away with it. Looking back, it makes me wonder if the guy had been living in our woods for a while or something. I'm not sure why he chose that spot, but he had been seen there multiple times. It was very creepy.